Starting and running a business is hard, but you don't have to do it alone. Whether you're an established business owner or thinking about starting a side hustle to earn extra income, I am here to teach you how to show up as your unfiltered self, level up your business, and thrive as a mompreneur. Let's embrace the chaos and start enjoying the journey together. I'm Amy Traw, and you're listening to the Motivated Mompreneur Podcast. Welcome back into the Motivated Mompreneur Podcast. I am joined today by Makayla Morales, and we are talking about aligned action and belief systems, all of the things. So, Makayla, I would love to welcome you in to the Motivated Mompreneur Podcast. It's great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk about belief systems and aligned action. I've really gone through so much transformation myself over the last 5 years. And I feel like this is something that I've really become an expert in. So
That's awesome. I'm so excited to dive into this conversation. But before we do, tell us more about yourself.
yeah, absolutely. So like I said, I'm a mindset strategist and transformation coach. So I have been going through quite the initiation and transformation the last 5 years, I would say. I am a new mom. I have a 5-month-old, so that alone has just been so exciting. But in 2018, I ended up losing my boyfriend in a pretty tragic way, and I was working in retail pharmacy at the time, and had just bought a home, and then everything around me kind of fell apart. And with this falling away of everything, I had to really in order to heal, connect with myself and rebuild really what was important to me. I had to identify what was important to me, because when tragic things happen like that, it's very easy, quick for things to fall out. You realize oh, that doesn't matter. That never mattered. Not important. And so, within the last 5 years, I did that work, and it was messy, and it was not so glamorous sometimes, but through that, I left my job in retail pharmacy and started pursuing my passions online. I'm a podcast host as well. I work one-on-one with clients. And I've just spent the last 5 years taking that aligned action from my intuition based on what was important to me, my morals and values. And it's led me here. I'm in a beautiful home, and I'm surrounded by family, and I have a precious little baby and a nurturing relationship, and I'm fulfilling my passions. And that's my goal, is to help my clients do the same. So
That's incredible. And I love how you said that, it wasn't always pretty. You did it messy, and you took the time to do the inner work. And I think that's where a lot of business owners, I don't know if fail's the right word, but kind of lose sight and then really set themselves back when you don't take that time to do the inner work. You can implement every single tactic out there, but until you get past those self-limiting beliefs and take that aligned action, you won't be thriving. So, what is aligned action?
aligned action to me means first off, identifying what's important to you. That is the number one thing. So that's kind of what I do in my one-to-one sessions, is connecting a client back to themselves, and then identifying what's important in your life. And then you can make decisions based on what adds value, what you think is important. And so that's really where I found the most transformation comes, because if you haven't identified what's important and you're not connected with yourself, you're making decisions based on what others think you should be doing, or what you're told to do, or what you see other people doing. And then you can do all the work and run yourself ragged. And then you wake up and you're like, I'm still not happy with this, and I don't feel fulfilled, and I'm not exactly where I want to be. And
Yeah.
I've just found, when you take actions from that intuitive space, based on what's important to you, even if you don't have everything, you haven't met all the goals, you still feel that sort of fulfillment. Because I found, when I make decisions from this intuitive space, no matter if things don't turn out like I expected them to, I know that I'm always exactly where I'm meant to be.
Exactly. And that can be really hard because, the rational part of our brain, a lot of times will put the emergency brake on. So, why do we stop trusting ourselves and just kind of pushing, that gut feeling, that intuition? Why do we push that to the wayside?
I feel like we're just not comfortable using that voice, and that's a lot of why I do what I do. I've started, yeah, in my transformation in the last few years. I was very much in a lot of the new age spirituality, and with my pregnancy and with the birth of my son, I've gone back to my Christian faith, and so I feel like I found a need to like teach intuition, but from this God-given space. So, like you said, like this gut instinct, to me, the word instinct implies that it came through creation. So, this like little voice within you that tells you, what feels like where you should go, what you should do, warns you when things just don't feel right or when things may be dangerous. Like, I believe that's a God given gift and we can harness it because you hear people talking about it, when they're in like near death situations or just like coincidentally, feel like something's off and then go a different direction and find out they were right. But I believe like that's a tool that's God given that we can harness in our day to day lives, like in decisions, big and small. And then the more that you begin working with this, and you have to connect deeper with yourself before you can like hear that voice and trust that voice and become familiar with this voice, then yeah, you can start taking that aligned action.
Definitely. So, what advice can you give to our listeners of how to start to harness that tool, how to start trusting? Because it is hard.
Mhm. Um, I would say definitely I Con w connecting deeper with yourself, and of course, that can look different for everybody. So, like, I love waking up in the morning, having that quiet time before baby and before baby wakes up, and just doing whatever fills my cup. So, to me, that looks like meditation, prayer, journaling, because and then, like, identifying the difference between, like, intuition and your ego, like knowing the way that they speak differently to you because your ego is also a God-given gift. It's speaking to in a way to keep you safe biologically, right?
Right.
And it works a little different now that we're more progressed, but it's just trying to keep you safe. So it's like hearing that voice, like understanding it as information and knowing that it's different from your intuition. Your intuition is very like calm and it's a very calm feeling. It's a very like straightforward feeling. Like it's a very like I said what I said and that's what it is. Like your ego is like going a million miles an hour and you feel that like stress, like you feel that intensity, you feel that like it'll repeat over and over and over again and that's how you know like it's really it's not um it's speaking from, that protective space.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it was Chris Harder that said, ego can be our biggest overhead as a business owner. And that's so true when you think about it, because it's always that go, 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 go. And if we just take the time, like you said, to fill our cup up and to be intentional, it can really create some powerful changes. I'd like
Mhm.
to dive a little bit deeper into our belief systems and how this can impact taking aligned action as well.
Mhm. Yeah, so I really had to tackle this in my, transformation out of, retail pharmacy and into kinda like more freedom and putting myself I felt like I really just, like, put myself into through this aligned action, like put myself into this like more freeing space where I could like pursue my passions and things. But it was when I first just like felt this loss, and I'm also working in a job I can't stand. And I'm like, there's just no way that I could ever get out of this because I just bought a house. And so now I have a mortgage and I have now have to take all these expenses on myself. Like I did have two people paying on these housing expenses, lost my partner, and on top of this tragic loss, now I'm 21 years old and I've got a mortgage and all these things to take care of completely by myself. And I'm like, well, I'm just gonna have to work here till I die. And I mean, like, I didn't go to college, and so and I had secured a good position in the pharmacy. So I was making like a good salary for my age. And I'm like, there's just no way that I can ever get out of this. Like, I'm just going to be, and that was a limiting belief. Like, that is so far from the truth. I'm like, but I did understand, like, I did take that ego, that fear, that limiting belief as like information. And I still showed up every single day. And just instead of leaning into that limiting belief and just like identifying that as truth, I'm like, that's not true to me. It's not, I cannot be unhappy like this. I cannot live like this. I will not let this steal my joy. So I showed up every single day, worked my 9 hours. I swore that I'd keep my peace the entire time. And that involved like setting myself up in the morning with good morning practices, bringing snacks throughout the day, like make sure I'm not hangry, like taking a step outside, like reading my book on my lunch break, just like filling my cup any way that I could. Identifying like any sort of like happiness and freedom, even while I was there. And then I started like noticing like I can live like a free life even within taking care of myself in any, instead of saying like I don't have time for myself, because yeah, I would look at my schedule and it would be made out 3 weeks in advance, and I'm like, okay, well, there goes my next 3 weeks. Like, this is what I have to do, this is where I have to be, and there's no, there's no leeway in that. So I filled up my cup in between. Like, I found these like small pockets of time, and then I mean, that kind of like jump started me, like that fulfilled me as long as I took these small pockets. And then I just told myself like change will come, like an opportunity will come. And just like connecting with myself over and over again, like I just felt in my heart, I'm like, it will come, there will come a point where like you will have absolutely no choice but to leave. Like, there will be something that happens where like you'll have no choice but to leave. And it did. And it literally came out of like absolutely nowhere. I work in the pharmacy, and it was time for me to renew my license, and that just kind of snuck up on me. And then I realized like I didn't do any continuing education. And they told me, like, you've got X amount of time to get this continuing education done. But I was like, yeah, no, it would have to be like cramming it all in, like stressfully getting it all done. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. And they're like, well, if you're telling me that you're not going to do your continuing education, then, like, we can't let you work in the pharmacy. And I remember being like, you're right. And like, they sent me home that day. But I'm like, yeah, for a second, I'm like, you're right. You're totally right. You can't. And then I left and I got in my car and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm free. Like, I just got fired. That was so great. Like, but it came like around the timing that I felt like it would. And then, yeah, and that's where that freedom came. But
Isn't it
I had to,
crazy?
yeah, I had to change that belief system though, of like, oh, I'm stuck here and this is horrible and there's just no way out. And I'm like, okay, I'm taking this as information. Yes, I do have, a mortgage to pay and different things like that. But I just like set myself up for change. I set myself up for knowing that, like, I mean, it was 8 months later before anything happened, like 9 months. It was a lot of showing up in that way, but I was able to transition out of that. So
Right. I love that. You just took those small pockets of time to create those opportunities. And looking back at the journey of life, isn't it crazy though, how you can really start to connect the dots and it all makes sense? And the journey's not always easy. And I think it's crazy to think that it should be easy, because it does teach us so much about how resilient we are and the things that we can learn, and that we do have a choice and that you can live a free life. We think that we're stuck in these careers and these jobs that we hate just because, like you said, like, okay, I've got bills to pay, I've got a mortgage, like I have to do this, so we don't see the opportunities. But look at the opportunities that presented you with. Truly incredible. I love it. Makayla, where can we learn more about you?
I am on Instagram at I am Makayla, and that's really where I hang out. I am on TikTok as well. Just that's more mom content, just me being a mom to a 5-month-old. I also host a podcast, The Conscious Expander Experience, and that has been my baby for like over a year now. Love that. And that's where I talk a lot about mindset, like lifestyle transformation, connecting deeper with yourself. So I feel like that's a great place to start.
That's awesome. And we will be sure to link all of that in the show notes. Until next time, everyone, stop dreaming and start taking messy action. You've got this. Are you loving what you're hearing? Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode.